saying particular things, to record ever so briefly a little bit about the best learning experience on that poster over there. And if you think of an idea about why that's the case, say what it is. If you have an idea, why did that happen? And what was your best teaching experience and why was that the best teaching experience? Because these are things that we want to try and replicate in the work that we're doing today. Replicate as you act as a learner and a teacher. Let's make this the best of many days. And as you think about teaching others the reasons why that worked, it helps to have those reasons in your pocket. So every person can write something. There's some pens up here on the table. We're going to conclude after this and move on to something else, so we're going to keep coming back to this. So if the best learning experience was learning to tip a canoe and write it and get back in, which is one of my best ever learning experiences, I would write tipping canoe and why, and it was because I felt physically strong. I felt physically powerful. I felt safe in the water because I could do that. I went out in the canoe, tip it over, turn it back up, and get in. I rock. But I'm not a big person, and I was raised poorly as a girl. I didn't do so well in the girly bits, but being strong never counted at that point. So some cryptic stuff. So please go up there and write. There's pens there. Everybody can write something, or you can dictate the answer to your partner. Say, right, please take a memo and put this stuff up there.
You know
Our own experience or our partner's?
Yes and yes.
Yes.
So we
Let's work together.
I'm over here. Try to keep these instructions as loose as possible. I have to be over there saying that, so that everybody feels welcome. You're not trying to do something to meet my expectations. You're trying to put out some useful stuff.
For you?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, we have 3 groups, so it doesn't matter.
We'll have to work on it.
Yes.
So what's the difference between teachers and a canoe builder?
No, just
Teachers don't tip. They're cheap lunch.
yes, that's true. And then apparently they always have big bags filled with pens and bad haircuts. That's how one of my sons describes it.
Really?
Probably quite true.
Goes to Jan Arden concerts. He loves Jan Arden.
Oh, yeah.
Most of the population in the audience is
The
teachers.
teachers.
And I said, well, how do you know? He said, well, she says something, we all reach in these big bags and haul out a bunch of pens. He said, and then you can tell by the haircuts.
Yeah.
Oh,
So that's what I
Did I
just think.
Yes.
It's going
Oh,
on,
yeah.
and we never paid attention why. Well, they're really. I think that Concord, there's some allowed meeting, especially so sad.
That's my experience in French,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, yeah. So you feel your life being taken from you as the clock ticks very slowly. It's giving away your moments of living. And that can't be right. But it can't be okay that I would take your time for my purpose and you would acquiesce. I don't understand why there's
So
no
never-
rebellion.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I worked with a fellow, he was actually department head, and he could spend a whole period talking about the train in the hand of other times. And like the kids were just,
Now,
he found it exhilarating.
yeah.
Personally, but it was boring the hell out of
Yeah.
those kids.
If you were in Harvard, you could see that that might matter.
Yeah. Oh, and the sharpening at the speed to 15 degrees on just stuff that
Which-
you don't need
Were
to.
you allowed to do it? Good. Were you allowed to share it? Well, there's
You guys are good?
There's a
Yeah.
routine.
Perfect, thank you.
Oh, he'd sharpen a lawnmower blade to 30 degrees and then put a 45 degree on it, so it
Okay.
had a little more meat.
Yeah, good. Why not?
Let's see. Your best teaching.
Oh.
We are.
Tom is a good word. Tom is a good word.
Oh, let's just say automotive class, what was that one?
Make sure I spell everything.
MX, MX, M small x.
I love this, how you said this.
Small Yeah.
I'm good.
Plus.
Well, it's funny when you're speaking, you don't remember.
You said, well, we didn't say those exact words, you said that you did this one stand and somebody wrote to an assist and was successful, and then you can see building from this, build your confidence, and that's what you do.
Pardon me? No, I'm a little south of Koreatown.
Comments?
Yeah, big brackets, it was a comment, feedback from a student, actually learned
Turns into
something.
Nanaimo.
I do, that's
So,
good.
between there and
Should I
Balance,
put
it's
some
the
feedback?
furthest east of East Van. So the spine along Kingsway is Korean, Vietnamese,
You're
India,
My best teaching.
oh, but close enough to get there.
two captains.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Quick part way, huh? Really? Really?
So mentorship.
CSO class.
Did you put me on here?
No, ER plus. Yeah, dash. Yeah, dash CSO class.
Yeah, do you, sure?
Tanya, you can open up a branch paper if you want, if there's too much waiting.
Oh, no.
Like literally exactly the same thing, comments and feedback from students.
Yeah, for another one.
Okay, I'll just.
Yeah, all those exactly the same things that they, how much they enjoyed it, yeah. That was it. Yeah, we got good feedback.
We got it.
Yeah. High five.
I don't do I don't like the way I look, so I do.
Oh, no, you. Oh, okay.
We're on red.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Philosophy here. It's a,
All right, Mr.
it's a
John.
good thing. Thank you.
So your most successful was your last class, what was it called? Last class you taught? You can rent yours if you like.
Oh, this is nice.
Single stroke Gothic, whatever that is.
Single stroke Gothic.
I taught drafting.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, once you had a shop teacher, you gotta teach it all.
Yeah?
You don't just stick without moving.
Usually it's the trades people that,
Passionate first.
especially the carpenters and like.
Is it right?
Ah.
Your passion. That was mine originally. Sure. No kidding. Don't.
I won't.
Delete, delete, delete.
I'll just get a slideshow, some slideshow that we have.
On the website.
Yeah. Oh, I can see that. Oh my God. Okay, that's why I live on the island.
Okay,
Just
so.
imagine all the trouble I get into here, so.
Yeah, we do.
Where?
Need some photos of you two with the class.
The mentorship of your coach.
I usually just try to stay out of their way.
Not be in the way.
Yeah.
Final observation, so this would be. It was good because.
Oh, yeah. Makes some of the awkward times all worthwhile.
Yeah, no, there you go.
That does.
You don't get
That's
to
not
do
the
that.
point. I already know this stuff.
Right.
They need
Another
by
part
example,
of
to practice, so they need to do it. Strong. So I need to get out of the way of my voice.
young women who were environmental.
Get out of
Company specific.
For 80% of the year,
And,
is the students' time.
She was company specific.
20%
In Boston.
is mine.
Yes.
To get really efficient
So they could do
in my
the
instructions.
evaluations.
Yes.
And when I walked back in, I walked in and
Oh, that reminds
no,
me
no,
of
no,
something.
no, trust me, I've been to lots of it. This one was good.
Oh, I'm working on that.
shoot.
Still working on it.
It's a good,
It's a goal,
ratio, though. It's a
yeah.
good goal.
Yeah.
Must be rough to be so tall, hey Travis?
I have to move the poster more not because that down here.
Okay.
Oh, good, thank you.
You first?
Thanks,
I
Michelle.
said-
Yeah. Oh, let me give it to you. Did you get it or?
We can get it later.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Experience.
Thank you kindly.
Oh, the boat.
No, no.
Yeah, the boat.
Thank you.
So say, just put short and put solid for certain.
Oh, this camera? Gotta get a new lens though. Maybe boxing grey. Yeah, it's had this new lens. Canon Rebel. My friend got it on Craigslist for like $400. Like value was like $700.
Wow.
Nice.
First time.
Done me well.
That's awesome.
Very durable.
I have a Canon.
Why,
Yeah.
yes.
I think it's a T4. I'm not positive.
It's a T1. It's an old model.
I don't think there's really that much
No.
difference in,
So my work.
They can't really get that much more efficient. Maybe lighter, but
yeah.
I gotta get a bigger one.
You got a bigger one?
Different one. Different quality.
What do you do with that?
Well, just the type of lenses.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why was she there? So much of the diagram. So why? Instructor was.
Super enthusiastic.
I was expecting to learn only a few people here.
There's only a few
Yeah.
people here.
Oh.
Yesterday we had way
You know
more.
it. That's not.
Yesterday we had Richard, we had all the WorkSafe people, it was like 4 of
Oh,
them.
really?
And then we had,
Because Shirley, I talked to her last week and I was like,
She likes to have money.
who's we missing? We're just missing Richard from yesterday?
Enthusiasm.
and Art.
And Art.
Yes.
Where's Art?
That's good.
Yeah.
He's not
If
an
it spills out to
instructor.
the box, then
That's
they'll pick
right.
up on
So I'm
that.
saying, yeah. So yesterday we had some.
I'm exhausted already.
Good. That's my rule.
No, that comes after lunch.
Thank you very much for those contributions. Would you open that manual that I gave you and lay it flat as it will? Yours doesn't have the surlocks, so it doesn't lie quite so flat. Pages 26 and 27.
26. 2627.
On page 26, the title is Employees Buy-in When. On page 27, the title is Effective Instructional Characteristics. You took those 2 pages to represent powerful learning on the part of employees buying in and powerful instruction on the chart here, effective instructional characteristics, best teaching. Read what they have listed in the book compared to the kinds of things that you said about why these things work. So you knew intuitively and could lift out of your own stories that learning occurs best when the learner is involved, when the work is relevant to the individual. So what you were saying, Scotty, about the instructor being thrilled with the grain of the wood in the handle of the axe and the students waiting for the class to be over,
Yes.
that was one of those where the students saying, and this has what to do with me?
Exactly.
What does this have to do with me? So if it doesn't have anything to do with me, the very best you'll get out of me is that I'll politely wait till you're finished.
Yeah, is this on the exam?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you'll get.
And
This
if
on the
you-
exam?
And if the answer is no, then they just go and start having sexual fantasies instead. They just do whatever they do to stay inside themselves and not in connection with you.
Yeah.
So if you don't get that link that you all identified as when you know it's working, there is that link, you wasted everybody's time. So there is a story, and it's not an apocryphal one, it's in an article by a Canadian researcher named Ken Osborne, who was reporting on interviewing high school students about what they learned in various circumstances. And the one that sticks out for me mostly was a high school math class where the young man reported, what I learned in this math class was how to take notes from bad handwriting on an overhead projector in the dark. That's not how I want to be remembered as a teacher.
It's a good talent,
I guess, except they don't have overhead projectors anymore. They have these smart boards and things instead. But if if our lives are precious for all of us and the passage of time is significant, then the passage of time needs to be treated with honor. I cannot expect you to wait for me to do something. I cannot expect you to do something that has no meaning for you. I can't ask you to participate with someone else without setting some ground rules where you can comfortably engage with your own ideas. So I specifically kept the instructions vague because I don't want you to satisfy my instructions. I want you to have an experience with other people in the class. So if I say the first person must speak for 3 1/2 minutes, the second person will take notes. The notes will then be divided into 3 categories, first, second, third, blah, blah, blah. I could have done that. I know how to do that. I'm a teacher. And you've had teachers like that. I wanted you to have a conversation. The conversations moved around. Each conversational pair was different. That's the way it should be. If you were telling stories to someone you met on a ferry or somebody that you meet in a class, you would do your own storytelling and you would disclose as much as you wanted to and no more. I couldn't ask you to say, give me your marks on grade 12 French or grade 9 math or whatever. That's an intrusion into your privacy. So the vague instructions are nerve-wracking for the learner. What the hell does the old bat want me to do? You're saying to yourself. And then you said, oh well, I got a few minutes, I'll just make something up, and that's what I want you to do. So sometimes precise instructions, while they may be perceived to be useful, foreclose right away on the establishment of voice. And you got louder and louder in your pair conversation. You started to very politely say, first dates, what do you do in Sagittarius?
No, I'm not dating Travis.
Okay.
No.
Okay, and then when you came back and you're standing around doing the charting, you're making noise for 12 people.
Yeah.
So we're now at the noise for 12 people. We're beyond writing on the overhead projector, and we're going to keep working at that pace for the rest of the day. So, why 2 people? In training sessions with strangers, the bigger the group, the higher the level of anxiety. So the very first encounter should be private. I write something to myself, I look at the agenda, I think about and then the next one, 2 people. So we won't be presenting or speaking, you won't be presenting or speaking to the entire group until after lunch. We'll work solo and in pairs till you get warmed up, till you get to trust folks. I always arrange the groups in my classes. My classes always work, students always work in groups because we always learn in the mirror of the other and because it's more efficient, puts more teachers in. I arrange the groups so that people don't work with their friends, so they don't have a comfort level to hide behind. They work with someone different every class, so they have a chance to learn a new territory every time. But here's how tragic it is. I then assign a host to the group. And often, in the very beginning, so a class might have 25 to 30 students. The host for the first class is the person with the shortest last name. So first of all, someone says, this is prejudicial against Asians. I say, yes, it is. Stick with me. In 15 weeks, I'll be prejudiced against everyone, so just wait your turn. So then they might talk to one another. How many letters are in my last name? Yes. In our group, 2 people have the same number of letters in their last name. Oh. Well, how will we know who the host is be? Well, I guess you'll have to go to plan B. What's plan B? I don't know. And they're unable, at first blush, to solve that problem. Who will be the leader when we both have the same number of letters? They are disabled by the control of the teacher. The teacher told us what to do and then we couldn't do it, so clearly our lives are over. After a little while, they figure out some things. So what would you do if you had 2 people with the same number of letters? What are some options for plan B?
Rock, paper, scissors.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah.
Totally
Got
rock,
it.
paper, scissors.
That's just-
Yeah. What else?
Alphabet.
Alphabetical. What else?
Letters in the first name.
First name, sure.
Age before beauty.
Sure.
Women, ladies first.
Ladies first, absolutely.
So there's an endless number of possibilities, including one that comes up every once in a while where someone volunteers and said, I'll do it. And eventually, over 15 weeks, everyone gets a turn. But on that first day, they come expecting the teacher will make all the decisions and I will either engage or acquiesce or just be silent. And that's the waiting. That's waiting for the class to be over. That's not how the time needs to be spent. So your energy as the teacher is to keep shifting the locus of control to the students in any way possible so that they bring their whole game. They tell all their stories. They'll often apologize, saying we got diverted to talk about our childhood. Like you could go anywhere without your childhood? The title of John Kabat-Zinn's book is Wherever You Go, There You Are. So everything that you are to this day, you bring. And if you're in a class with a teacher who has half a brain, they will make you work all of that stuff. Why would you leave half your tools in the truck? I'm just going to do everything with this one multi-screwdriver. I'm not going to use any of that other stuff. It's just wasteful. And there's not enough time for us to be wasteful. So, you have all of the adjudication tools that you need, and you know that you are successful. So we've already crossed off number one. We've shared success stories. So if you're one of those people who likes to cross things off, to know that you've got some momentum happening, I'm a list maker. When I make a list, the first thing I put is make list. I make the list and I cross that first one off. I am good. I've got momentum. And then sometimes I've mostly got my my list, and then I cut out the corners of my book, and then I've done the whole section. I put a line through it like that. And then sometimes I got one hanger on here, I'm not getting anywhere, I write BF on that, move it over to the next list and put a line through there. So I just make up my own rules about momentum, because I'm addicted to momentum.
So what does BF stand for?
Bring forward.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was
Going there.
It's a federal government
Bring food, I like that
tool.
one better.
We'll just BF that, meaning put it off till later.
Mm.
That's so I don't pretend that I've forgotten. Just slide it over onto the next page. It's all a mug's game of making achievable goals. I make my own goals and I construct them such that I hope to achieve them. So, so far we've done talking, charting, moving, partnering. We're going to do more partnering. We're going to work with some other kinds of things. I'm not suggesting that this is, that the techniques that I will use are the best way. I'm trying to demonstrate that whatever it is you want to accomplish, there's lots of different ways that you can do it. We're foreclosed by being in a room like this. We don't have much flexibility in terms of furniture. We don't have enough time to build things or draw things necessarily, but we're going to go to the edges as best we can to show that if you're not noticing best learning and best teaching with one technique, change your technique. Don't blame the student. Change the approach. If the shoe is pinching your foot, you don't take the shoe off and yell at it or put it in the hallway. You typically buy a different size of shoe or a different style or something. Keep that shoe idea in mind when you're thinking about the way you work with students. So I'm going this time to ask Tammy and Scotty to work together, and John and Mary Jo. You two worked together before, Travis and Tanya?
No, not really.
Several years ago.
Yes, quite a bit.
So we're shifting over to the red line, encourage student participation. This is one of the things that Shirley asked me to do that apparently people had asked her on several occasions. What are things that we can do to encourage participation? Because a lot of people think that the job is just to sit in the seat until the time is up, waiting for the class to end. So we're going to work with some teaching strategies to encourage participation. And again, you're going to work with a partner. The reason for working with a partner is you're not going to agree necessarily, which means you're going to have to open up the possibility that there's a way other than yours. Who knew? Because that's often the case with learners. They have a way, it isn't your way, so adapt. So you're going to have to do some negotiating and some comparing and some storytelling and disclosing. So each of you is going to get an envelope here, and it's got little pieces of paper in it. I'm a baseball fan. I do a lot of my teacher preparation while the baseball game's on because baseball's very slow and boring. So I cut a lot of little pieces of paper, various kinds. So you're going to get, there's 16 things in here. These are all teaching techniques. instructional strategies, we call them in the ed biz. They're ways to introduce activities, possibilities to students. So you each get one envelope, and I want you to sort them in two piles. One pile is, yeah, I do that. And the other pile is, no, I don't do that. And, or I haven't done that yet. Whatever. So you're gonna have two piles. Probably the pile of things I do will be smaller than the pile of things that I don't yet do, but it doesn't matter, it's not a competition. So you're gonna sort them in two piles, and then your partner is gonna have sorted his or her into two piles. And then first of all, look at the piles of things that you do. What do you both do? So reinforce those things that you have in common. And then start a bit of a explore, as Pooh Bear would call it. Explore the ones you haven't done. Could I do that? How could I do that? In my teaching circumstance, or my coaching circumstance, or my organizational circumstance, how could I do that? It's kind of like trying a new food. What is that going to taste like? You know, in the end, everything tastes like chicken, so you can just adapt to that. But the first thing you're going to do as an individual, I do this, I don't do this, two piles. Then with your partner, look at what you both do and reinforce for one another. Why do I keep doing this? How do I know this works, or is it just habitual, or is it the only thing I know how to do? So, you know, the Ford wrench concept. And then move over to the we don't do that yet pile and go on explore. You don't have to do anything with it more than just talk about it with your partner. How might this work? Okay, so you need to clear some space, and so you can have two piles. And you might want to move and be near the partner that I assigned you. Likewise, if you want to do this with a stand-up meeting, you can, or use the chairs or whatever. I'm imagining 30 minutes for this, but I will watch you and adjust to the level of interest and noise in the room. And then we'll have a coffee break in case you need to be motivated. It's not a competition, it's not a test, you can follow. You can sing. Indeed.
But I mean, it's a heavy book. So we have a list, right? It's Tammy's.
It is not, not once here. That's, I was probably, no, John's, because he's checking out today.
No, mine's on
Oh.
the card.
Then it's.
Scotty, is that
Tammy's.
fine?
That's mine, yeah.
Can I move it over to the other side?
Oh, sure.
I'm gonna put a poster.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I think that's ringing off. Stuff. Should have turned this and hang this up. Maybe tall.
Oh, that's.
Close enough for government work.
What
We
is
call that learning.
I
You
need to
can
learn.
stay.
I came across that one, I put it in my don't do file, but
Did you do that?
in fact,
Okay.
probably do that.
Yes, I'll teach you to do that.
Or
Q&A.
ask if there's anybody
Those
down
things
there.
are both cheap, check out that.
So what's wrong?
Yeah, I'll teach you to do that.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so, yeah, I'm just gonna take like these, these are the ones that we have to go over. So you can teach me these ones,
Right, you're
right?
gonna teach me.
I teach you these ones. Yes,
You
okay.
teach me these ones, I teach you these ones. Okay, so you're gonna teach me these ones.
Okay.
When he worked for,
Demonstrate your training record,
Chevron,
regular questions, person should be.
and he wanted to philosophy, and if you went to see
The learner draws questions, interest in
your name goes,
So this is kind of something we want to rescue. And this is
really showing up with what you
and I tried to incorporate myself, but he did a much better job at it.
Yeah.
It's just a little important. So during his lectures, he gets people to get out private papers.
But I'm getting more into it.
Thank you.
Why don't you like
It's the easiest way to explain this. Because he just kind of.
That doesn't feel good, I would avoid it on the spot.
Yeah, well.
Anyway, I could get.
You know, now we can work that into teaching.
So
Because that often this can be exploring the topic.
it's very odd when you're teaching stuff.
Yeah, that's
No,
okay,
it-
just tell me
no,
when
it
it's
does-
done.
so-
Yeah,
okay.
Good.
So he starts to speak the topic.
Carry on then.
And
Recognize
So, and this
these
one was
ones
50.
are-
We both did that.
he wants you to
You had a question?
Oh, yeah.
question, I guess the easiest way to explain it in our terms, if you create a question that you don't really understand, but once you go over,
We share, I got hung up on the empirical learner, share the list.
Yeah, I don't do that, but
he just the way he does it is good. And he's,
maybe groups.
but he
I probably do, yeah, you know.
does them twofold. One, he wants you to create notes of things that you're understanding,
In order, I got
and
And jigsaw?
over or not quotes, but questions that he's going through that you can find valuable and you can teach other people, and share that information. So it's kind of more like notes, but in question format. And I've tried to duplicate it
Okay,
in
so
smaller
this is-
sessions. I'm not a big fan, but just tried it, and I just can't create the way that he does it. But he wants you to,
So he takes notes, but he knows it has a question.
as in,
These
They're
ones.
moving these
so
around
you
like
can
playing
go
cards.
there.
Ah, I do that. Oh, yeah, I'm over here. I'm keeping this one. I'm gonna try
Like,
this
he's
later.
very much
This is great.
a veteran.
Does he do this drawing afterwards?
No.
And then have other students answer his questions?
No, he wants you to almost, no, it's okay. That was a question. I don't know if that's me, I just like talking about things with this. Elaine,
Yes. Give it some.
yeah. This one here,
And the other one was?
review your thoughts. I'm trying to forget your ears.
So, in a typical
Yeah, with the
classroom
very
setting,
flashing fly in the
teacher
wall.
asks this
I
question,
don't do that now, but I.
for
did
which
in one
he or
of
she
the-
already knows the answer. And there is one right answer, and ask the student to tell the teacher what they already know. It's similar, which is a complete waste of the question as pedagogical opportunity.
As a witch?
Pedagogical opportunity, a chance to learn something.
Okay, I've never heard of that before, ever.
Sort of a way.
You know, about,
It's a Greek word, pedagogue, is
Okay.
the teacher, like the
Okay.
mentors, the teachers with names on
Farmers
it.
Union Board.
Anyway, the question
A
in
simplified
its
version.
greatest vitality is asked by the student, because it represents their curiosity. So how many candies are we allowed to have?
Okay.
Is a kid question.
Okay.
Okay?
But it's
and
not a big part of
It's
it.
big because it directs something that they're interested in. So Robin Jackson's suggestion of shifting the locus of control to the students is questions should be asked by the students. We use the question as teachers to prove that the student knows what we think they know.
That's all.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they can do that too, if we shift the locus, if we say, okay, having
I don't know.
read the stuff about best learning, what kind of question would you ask to see if anybody knew about best learning?
Okay.
So the question might be something like,
What are the 5 steps?
what are the 5 steps? Or if 80% of the airtime in the class is owned by the teacher, what are the chances of that being best learning? Exactly, you see?
Okay.
Sharing.
Okay. I see.
So
Okay.
instead of the teacher asking questions, give it to the student saying, if people knew anything, what question would they ask?
Yes, this is more just
In the afternoon, we brought stuff.
getting them to bring out the
Yeah,
answers.
these are all that.
Teaching them and you're teaching them and saying, now write questions. Yeah. What question would you ask to find out if somebody actually knew this information?
And then the teacher can be absent from that. I've done the demo. Design 5 questions that people should be able to answer.
Based on
Ask
the time.
Tanya all 5 of those questions.
And see if
She
she
knows
knows
it.
the
Yeah.
answer, yeah.
So you're testing
That's
her.
brilliant.
This is more like-
You have to create
this
the
is more
question
like-
and know the answer.
Yeah, that's
This is
really
very
fun.
similar to a what's the other one? Q&A. Where's the Q&A? I don't know where it is. I don't have it for some reason. Okay. Oh, Q&A. So it's more like
So,
a forward Q&A where you haven't taught them that, but you expected them to do the pre-reading, and so you're just testing them on doing the pre-reading. Oh, okay, now I got it.
these are all the
I
same
didn't
thing.
understand a word you just said. I did.
So, no, this
I
is
just
like-
need to read this
No.
1 second. Questions which need to be answered to achieve that goal. Okay, go ahead. What would you
So
say?
this is almost like forward thinking Q&A. This is almost testing the students to see if they already know that knowledge, or for example, if they've done pre-reading that they're supposed to have done. Yeah.
And we did get them to do it with each other. So in a
Yes.
class of 25,
Yes.
officially, there is one teacher that's very efficient.
Yes.
If there are 26 teachers,
It makes you curious.
and if there's 13 lessons are going on simultaneously,
Be
it's
learners
more bang
ourselves.
for your buck. And you don't have one hammer on the job site and you take turns using
We
it.
stop.
Yeah,
Everybody
yeah,
doing
we
all
get-
their stuff.
Yeah, we get that, we
Yeah.
understand that teaching.
Yeah.
Yeah, is the best way to
So
learn.
these are
But
all
just like
techniques.
how to make that calculation.
So this is, so would you say these are very similar?
Very similar. They're all
So-
very similar.
I would say, like I try to do Q&As all the time, like questions, I try to engage the students as much as possible.
Post a big question and have people come in and jot down answers as we go, and everybody go by and check off, put your check mark beside an answer that I think is okay. There's a bazillion ways to do it.
Yeah.
These are all the ones I thought of. There's a baseball game was one.
It's good, and I'm okay.
So those to me are very similar.
Yeah.
So this would,
And
Better not
this
mix
whole
it up.
time.
Oh, you
okay,
can.
so
They're
Q&As
yours.
here.
We get to keep this.
Oh, brilliant.
And so what I do is I.
Definitely don't mix them up.
I was here.
So going back to this, going back to search and rescue. So a better way to explain it now that I've clarified it is so that he goes and teaches a lesson, and then without him giving you the answer, he wants you to be able to, okay, what did I just do? And I just gave you a demonstration on navigation, and you plotted the course to the next point, and the next point is going to be X, Y, Z over there.
But then
And so he'll get you guys to write that down, and then he'll explain that to the next session of people and stuff like that. So he's very much just
I'm not gonna sweat. It's just that's the way.
pass the information on to me. Okay.
So that's the demonstration one. So is that,
Okay,
so
and
now
then-
we've done that one, that's
Add
that.
some.
That's
I don't know what we're doing here, but.
Okay, so let's do general.
We've got a nice
Let's
little.
talk about it before and after the teachers. Okay, so this is something that we do in for JHA's. And so it's
Me too, man.
more just like
And I
we're
used to have
doing
little
John
pieces of
Hauser
paper, then I used
analysis.
pieces of paper. So now I have this book.
She's not so much.
And I work backwards and forwards, certain things coming in from the back. Then I poured my coffee into a briefcase
And
like
they're
that,
just
which was
moving
nice, and then I
around.
worked forward with other
Different
stuff.
aspects of JHA,
One at a
as they're
time. I keep
talking
the
about
others.
it, so pass on to you, you're filling out, but
So what do
you're
we do with this?
engaging everybody else.
I'm asking for instructions.
Yeah, everybody adds something, right, this is a procedure, okay, you do step one, talk about it, okay, now pass up, next step.
Want to call this section to a close with a couple of comments and some questions for you. But over here, I want to put a word on that exercise that you were doing and on a whole bunch of things. It's called repertoire. Good teachers have repertoire. Means they got 16 or 20, you've got 16 because that's then around the baseball games. So 16 or 25 or 1,000 ways to do things. It's like you have several recipe books for feeding various numbers of people. You don't always make the eggs the same way because people get bored. Or you don't always make eggs because some people are allergic or whatever, and you have repertoire. We realize that with beginning teachers, when the class is going very well, they think they're wonderful, and when the class doesn't go well, they revert to power because they don't have repertoire. They don't have enough other tricks, other options, other possibilities, and they get anxious. So then they start arguing from the position of power. And that's where you can tell a novice from an experienced person. The experienced person has repertoire. There is nothing magical about these little gray pieces of paper, except it gives you and your partner some material to work with. This is not the whole of a teaching repertoire. It's not necessarily applicable to your area of work. What is important is that you develop repertoire so that when you, and this is the segue to our next step on feedback, which we'll do after coffee. When you observe your students responding really well to an activity that keeps showing up in the best learning and you keep having the best teaching experience, do that again. But don't just do that. Keep looking to expand your repertoire just in case somebody comes who doesn't respond to that idea. The more repertoire you have, the more you observe, the more you are, as my mentor and dream teacher Maxine Green says, the more wide awake you are to other possibilities, the better your students will perform because you'll find a way to connect with them. So you've connected with your partner on things that you've already done. You can take the envelope and the little gray pieces with you, but what I want you to do on your way to coffee is to write on the wall up there on the way to the coffee station the things that you do. You can use the titles that I used on the little cards. If someone's already written a title that you use, just put a check mark beside it. And then we'll take a look at what the repertoire map is for this particular group. You'll get a sense from reading that I do this list. What do people use that are in your line of work? Because that's a good thing to copy. You're not teaching acrobatics necessarily, so you're not doing a lot of trust exercises necessarily, but you might be if you were. So take your I do this list and make sure that your things either get written in your own hand up there or a check mark beside that if somebody already read it before you got there. Grab a coffee. It's 10:15. We'll reconvene about 10:30 and move on to feedback and preparation for your lessons.
Elaine, what time would you like to have lunch break?
We just had breakfast. Who's ready for lunch?
But.
Oh, in terms of our class. Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Only because we have to pre-order and
Yes.
we have to put our order in an hour ahead of time.
Well, could we say 12 in the name of tradition?
Absolutely. So
Does that
sometime during the break, could you write down what you would like for lunch on this piece of paper? And the soup of the day is Thai beef, and it is gluten-free. Okay? So this will be right here.
So there's some pens beside the coffee station for writing on the I do this list. Thank you. Thank you for managing our general well-being and weight gain.
Yeah, no problem.
I already ate my day's worth of calories before breakfast.
And Estelle. I had family in Cleveland from California this morning.
Oh.
So it was a little tough to sleep early.
Well, there's fruit and very stale buns
Yeah.
over there.
Well, yeah, it
Moderate
was
stale
good.
buns. So going right, I do this.
Okay.
I do
So
this.
going right.
Yes.
Did your instructions include that we were supposed to complete something in the book?
No, up on the wall.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
But we saw everybody writing in their books.
Who knows what they were doing?
We're just writing in a book.
They were writing in their books. They could be composing a grocery list.
That's what we're doing.
This is my grocery list. I don't do, I wanna do.
Kind of nerve-wracking having here.
I know. Scotty, it's interesting, what you're talking about is an expectation that we have of something in the educational literature called time on task.
Mm.
Are people doing what I assign them to do? And
What happened to me right just now was, am I not doing something I
exactly,
was supposed to do?
exactly. So you have that anxiety. Most teachers think that they set the conditions of what people are gonna work on, which is utter hubris. It's just arrogance of a high order. There's no more you working on my agenda than you moving into my house for the day.
That's right.
So I have to give space to bringing to a common place what you know and do and care about, and what I know and do and care about. And if you have a family member who's ill, or people are arriving from away from Christmas vacation, or your daughter-in-law is about to have a baby, your attention is gonna come and go from my agenda.
I've been through that.
Yeah, and you know, never mind mine.
No.
So I'm happy to answer your question, as long as the awareness is that this is not an expectation that everybody's gonna be doing the same thing all the time. Especially that everybody's gonna be doing what I say.
I'll do
I'll
that.
give you the pink pen.
Pink one.
So if your word is already up there, just put a check mark beside it. I do that, I do that, I do that. So
I just put them all away. I had them all in my nest.
you can take those if you got totally distracted.
Yeah, we get to keep these?
Yeah.
Good.
And the envelope.
I was gonna ask, I didn't know if you have one.
Well, it's winter ball season, so not much is televised. I can't afford to go to Puerto Rico. But it's almost spring training, starts in January. It's my answering machine message changes with the seasons. It's spring training in the morning. Thomas Boswell is a wonderful fiction writer, wrote a book called How Life Imitates the World Series. It was just quite lovely. Baseball has the best writers of all the sports. There are some people who write about football, but most of the fiction writers or philosophical writers write about baseball. But his argument is that baseball is the only sport that has the capacity to change the movement of time. It's because an inning is defined by 3 batters up, 3 batters down, but it can last from
forever, yeah.
3 batters to through the order any number of times. And so an inning itself can be a few minutes to half an hour. And then a game can be any number of innings, typically 9, but most recently in the majors, 17 inning game.
Yeah.
Well, the only person that didn't call in the pitch was me. And it just it has an elasticity like life. You know how life moves faster or slower depending on your emotional connection with that event? Both joy and sorrow are different paces.
Time is elastic.
Yeah, time is elastic.
No question.
And so he writes about baseball having that capacity to make obvious the elasticity of time, which Einstein, that was his relativity.
What's that?
It's darker than that.
Anti-gravity, and all the sci-fi writers as well. Space-time continuum and the wormhole and through into the alpha quadrant, all those concepts are now represented in modern physics. But they first occurred in the brains of science fiction writers who said, this ain't the life I'm in. So the kids on the short bus who see and hear and find the world different. That's where the innovation is. And I love that story, how it is. So, there you go. And plus I sit in front of the deli and I things.
And as you see, time flies when you're having fun.
Exactly, yep. Yeah, it does. So you're going to record yourself?
I am. Well, me and John are very similar.
You and John are.
Similar.
Did you put yourself up here?
Yeah. I did the pink.
You're pink, how lovely.
I added pink and then
Oh,
checked.
okay, we're the pink team.
Pink is good.
Right.
Thank you for that.
Do you guys have any ideas for like instructor feedback forms that you guys want for the BCCSA? Thinking about changing the format so you guys can view it. Or it's more like anonymous, I guess.
Like online, you mean? And we don't see them right now.
Yeah. For core you don't, but for the other ones it's a paper form, right? But it's
Yeah.
not anonymous, which is a problem.
Is it a problem?
I don't know. Maybe they're not as honest.
So if you read all of the handwritten ones and then you
They're
read,
more honest with it.
are they more honest with the
Online.
computer ones?
Yeah.
They are?
Or more
Yes.
detailed.
More detailed?
I think it's for core because it's required though, because it's a little different though.
Oh, you require them to fill it out?
Yeah, or they think it's required, so
Okay.
they do.
Scotty, he didn't
Oh,
even
okay,
change
well,
the
that was
copy,
my
so
next
we're not
question,
down
is
to
how many
10
people
o'clock.
actually have filling out
Bilge
all
water.
those? Normally when online
You
comes,
brought
you
him in
check
your
it.
box.
Oh, yeah, no, I'll refresh my keys, what I'll do. Yeah.
So could you force them to do it though? You don't, it's a must.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know what we should change the format or not, or just leave it the way it
Then we should do it online. If you make it a must.
is. Yeah.
If you make it a
You
must,
still
then there's
lose
a
10% of people, I think.
Yeah. This is the only thing about
Still,
that is that the writing
still
class,
coming
they're
down.
there.
You don't have to take a vote.
They can do it right then and there. If you send them a survey, it's on their own time, that's something.
I'm taking a vote, Mom.
Then at the end of the
Yeah, you
day,
are.
sometimes
They
like
were
just one of
the
those that check marking stuff. But, if the instructor gives enough time, then it's not an issue. But
Yeah.
then the instructor, if you're gonna do a handwritten.
Should have had a vote.
Then the instructor actually has to speak. My experience is the instructor has to say, hey.
You're driving?
No, just.
It was good, like,
You could just say here's your evaluation function.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah, that's what it looks like right now.
So the instructor needs to drive, to drive it.
And bridges are
But
particularly.
if you're finding it that you're getting almost 100%, people are filling them out after the fact that you're making it mandatory and
Oh, okay.
becoming more detailed and more
Yeah.
accurate, then go
We
for
help
it.
enforce it.
Yeah.
I've never done it online, so I have no idea.
Have you seen their papers, you know?
Because it like
Well,
every
every,
like one
just to
sentence
give you a
for
clue
like the
about
feedback
the
one I
general
feel like,
status
but
of
the
it,
online one for core
theater
it's like
named after a big
paragraphs.
forest
Maybe
company.
Not every
it's-
one of them.
Because they're also
Sometimes
taking
really
little
UBC
like
channels.
Handwritten words. And like I was thinking like
It's got a
the phone, but
two-story
I don't know.
atrium kind of
Yeah,
log,
I know,
lots of
technically it's
extras to
probably
gather
better.
and stuff.
And some people do it on the
Marbles,
phone if they can.
wood paneling of various
Is it a link
kinds
that you
up all the walls.
Oh,
It
if I
really
can
is
make it
a
online,
showpiece
make it
for the
for
wood,
Beautiful.
wood industry. It's
Explore options.
quite beautiful.
Because if you do a,
And
I know
tall,
sometimes I get
many
monthly
stories,
surveys
offices
with them,
above,
and so I just need to do my phone, my iPad, or my computer, depending on what I just check mark.
Yeah. Well, in the huts, I'm still in a hut.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think education is the lowest rung on the totem pole.
When it says,
I didn't
please
know,
fill this out, it'll take 10
I
minutes.
did all of my
When it says it'll take 2
study
minutes,
at
3 minutes, I'll do it. As soon as it hits 5,
in the
I'm
fabric
gonna check it out.
Good point. So I'll have to make the paper and actually time
Been
it.
working
Yeah.
ever since.
I don't mind doing a couple minutes, but if you tell me it'll take 7 to 10 minutes, forget it. I don't know how to do it.
Okay.
It's not just like the instructor feedback, we want feedback on the
He
course
was
too,
one
like
who really
applicable
enthused
to
me
them
about
and
teaching
what they're
because
gonna
he
do.
was so enthusiastic.
And like with the paper
That's
form, we
fabulous.
you don't do anything with it
Yeah.
because it's now it's paperback and it's time to be.
I was listening to your story
it,
of your
so
owner, and
I
also
we have to
like
switch to the
Oh, I
online.
can do that.
his name is Craig Gillis.
But is it possible for
Came in
us
first
to
day.
know, 'cause we need.
Yeah, that would be the
know,
biggest thing. Would be like I don't I'm gonna explore different options like Google Forms or something like making it so like they can it'll be anonymous but like
He
you
did
can
teach
still
a
see
3-hour
Comments.
Comments
Yeah.
on
just without saying anything. Then we
Honestly,
came back the
Chuck's
next day and he said, so what do you think of that?
Yeah,
We didn't
they really
apologize.
do.
I know.
totally
Wanted
careless.
to
It's
teach
what the
subsequently
student
is
thinks,
a
What the student
particular
thinks
field of
is
study. Teaching
important.
with your mouth shut.
And,
As teachers,
you know, if you have,
was
oh,
tend
do
to
some one
do a
student
lot of
that doesn't
leather,
like something,
where
she can't please everybody.
action is with the
And,
students, it's
but
with the
they can
students,
have
it's
to
with
start
the
to
students.
take that
I have to keep saying that, because I get all wrapped up in my stories,
Yes.
and, in my right answers. And Parker Palmer, who's a scholar whose work I follow, has done a lot of work in OSEC, shifting the laws of control, but he says one of his books, it all works until
Even
one
for
of the students
conferences as well?
says something in there
That's pretty valuable.
It is pretty valuable.
that I know is absolutely wrong.
Huge feedback.
So then my question is, how long do I wait to smite them with
No,
the
not
sword?
required.
Because as soon as
think it is.
Well, yeah, as long as I
lose
think it is,
trust.
yeah, that's
Because
fabulous.
do I wait till another student
I'll have to
corrects?
talk to Shirley about that.
Do I wait a lesson and see if percolating on the idea
You know, a lot of
causes
instructors
different
don't.
things to
I mean,
happen?
even
How
for me,
long do
it's
I
really
stay
difficult for
true
the instructor
to my promise to myself as opposed to my promise to the living concern?
Not just like.
And it's a
What is it
pretty
about
scary thing, like what people are going down,
And
what you
then
know with your
it's
own children, if they're going down the wrong road, what do you do? It's, there's no single right answer to that, it depends.
Yeah.
Depends on
And that's how our
the
forms
also
are now. It's like a scale
depends
of
on
1 to
how
5,
much
like,
trust you
good or
can
bad.
build
Yeah.
in the community.
You gotta go.
Where
But.
you might say, you know,
Or
Joanne,
what needs
that's
improvement.
right, and you have the courage and the confidence to say that, and you don't need
They would have been.
Barbara Power to interview with this sort of truth,
Because
because
sometimes
you've
it's-
developed
sometimes a lot of
a
instructors
trust
want to.
with each other, but man, that's hard.
For the core when we see that.
Would you see that a lot? Yeah, I bet you
Oh,
did.
yeah.
My beginning,
Yeah.
It depends on
It's tough.
the situation.
Was I thinking about making it
It
really
really
You can smack them with the sword
want more time on it.
immediately. For example, if you're chairing a meeting,
That's different.
because, you know, like,
More honest.
put the hand up one top or second time to motion. Sorry, can't do that. Since when? Well, since
Robert's Rules of Order.
Robert wrote his rules.
Yeah. So I just didn't tell us anything.
That-
Sometimes you get.
Yeah, thank you for that feedback.
Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, I just figured it down. Remember it in the year.
Where's the menu we're supposed to look at?
Oh, yeah.
I stole it.
Oh.
What was the soup of the day?
I didn't hear it. Something that was wheat free.
Thai
beef.
beef.
What was it?
Thai beef.
Thai beef.
Like Thai beef.
Beef.
Oh, beef.
Okay, soup of the day for animal.
Local, and really, when she was trying to get off the conference, she was having and she's very local. And I had seen her speak, heard her speak at another. She went through her routine in class. And, but she kept apologizing. And then after the class, she apologized. I said, it was fine. You know, and I actually said it out loud. It's fine, it's okay. You're having a tough day. Just take your time, whatever you need to do. You know, and I just went with it instead of reacting to it. My reaction was to say it's okay. So then it was okay for everybody, and it was okay for her. And she forgave herself. It was okay.
And that is a signal of you as an experienced lunch and no need for power. If they have
Yeah.
a need for power, which might be even teachers do, they don't have much repertoire, so they gotta keep it under control. Then they can't brook any of that kind of thing. They can't relax into the, you're having a bad day, create space for you.
And
It's,
they'll
I'm in
let
charge here.
themselves give in to it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it always is. No, no.
And what else?
Point,
No, that's it.
But you get non-trade and a beverage.
That's not bad.
trained as a, to do workshops on harassment, sexual harassment. And I had a zone.
A beverage?
And I did all the
No,
elementary
it's
schools,
water.
and secondary school in that zone.
Just gonna have water.
So I was in this elementary school, and the principal did everything in his power to be real representation. Yeah, Scotty, you know what, as far as I'm concerned, harass is still two words.
I come with you.
That's in front of us, mostly females.
Excuse me.
So, well, that's not what we're here about, yeah. And I just kept on moving.
Guys, if you trip and fall, I think you're one of the guys.
You know, I knew I wouldn't win that one.
No.
And of course, he's trying to, his power is the little Hitler of this elementary school. So I just took my focus off him and just kept on what it was I had to do. And got through it.
But the centering of you and the confidence of you as an individual is what underlies your ability to do that. When we get stuck in knowing the content and showing how smart we are, then we're really vulnerable
Yes.
to that kind of thing. If we are learners and we keep a curious stance, we say, well, what's interesting about this? He's obviously doing something that's contrary to our goals. That's interesting. But we have our goals.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting, but we're here. Well, that's interesting, but. And the learner stance says, that's interesting.
When I was a
used to have to go and speak like to the entire electric department or the city police, right? And I used to have to go and speak to
They're not
them
buying
in the
it.
gym at the university, they were fine.
Oh, yeah.
The electric departments are really problem. Because I'm up there speaking and talking about our health and safety program, what we're doing, and all of a sudden, like these negative comments towards me. I didn't know where this was coming from or why or anything. And the same with the public works. I mean, they were so controlling, I think, in their.
Behind John on the wall, everybody has repertoire. Everybody has multiple things that they can do. The first person to the chart wrote the words, other people said I do that too, by putting a check mark. So as the last aspect of repertoire building that would encourage student participation, so those are all activities, repertoire for student participation. I'm going to ask you to do what we call in the ed biz a whip around, and a whip around means everybody speaks, everybody says their thing, then moves on, and there is no adjudication of what they say. Nobody says, oh, good idea, like they do on Family Feud, good answer.
We're Canadian, we're gonna say it anyway.
We're not doing that. But nor will there be any,
Say it.
nor will there be any critique that includes no peanut butter look, no eye rolling, no snorting, which is what people do when they're adjudicating the work of others. Well, we're not doing that. So I'm going to give you a second to think about that list, and you can haul out your list if you want. And what I'm going to ask you to do is make a public commitment of something that you're going to try. So it wasn't on your do list, it's on your I might do this list. Now we're not going to follow you home and say Wednesday next week, have you done that yet? Where's your answer to that? It's just you're going to state a possibility. I'm going to try whatever.
And we have you videotape.
That's not recording, is it?
What a good idea.
Oh
Not
my.
that
on
we're
right
gonna
now.
follow you home.
Oh my.
So, Tammy, do you want to go first?
No.
Oh. I should rephrase that question. Tammy, please go first. So then it's not a question, it's a statement. It's an instruction.
So, just so I understand correctly, so I am going to state something that I am going to try based on these
Yeah,
cards.
that you haven't done it yet.
But I haven't done it yet. Okay, there was one in here that I really liked. Well, there was lots that I actually really liked, and quite a few that I haven't never done. And I based my experience not on instructing, but just in general
Being
meetings.
Yeah, human is good.
Yeah, human is good. Let's see. I like the, low stakes competitions. We do, in our staff meetings, we try to do a lot of team building exercises right at the beginning. But this has, the Jeopardy, the Family Feud, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. So a lot of those particular games would be excellent to add to our staff meetings as well. The buzzer, yeah, the buzzer.
It's good. I like fun.
I would like to try the jigsaw sometime in the future. I'm intrigued by it, but I can see the enthusiasm level being quite high with participants in the jigsaw.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good one. You didn't use your cards or anything, I'm impressed.
John.
I went and looked over there. And I was watching what you were doing too. I was thinking
glad I
to
could
myself,
help you.
don't pick jigsaw.
I'm gonna come back to that.
I've been given a teaching assignments until, I think, for the first 6 months of the year. I think we've already done that. And I have 6 of these don't do's, and I'm gonna try the first 3 in the first 6 months of 2015. So question and answer, demonstration, and jigsaw. And the other 3, in order, many questions and add something, I'm going to do, hopefully, if I get some more teaching assignments, in the last 6 months of 2015.
Did you say I, John, to the camera? John.
For the record.
You can go ahead. I've made my commitment.
I tell you.
I, Tanya, commit. I like the demonstration one. Although I've done tons of demonstration, I haven't done it like this. which is during a lecture demo, learners write down questions that a person should be able to answer if they understood the topic, and put them in a pile, and I love that. I'm gonna try that in my next class. Yeah, I think that's actually quite brilliant. It'll be for more, not a learner group, but a more experienced group. I like it.
That's brilliant.
I challenge you.
I challenge myself. So I accept your challenge.
And
And raise the bar. The one card that I like here is the what's wrong in the safety field. And safety professionals, we have to be good at finding things that are wrong, gap analysis, inspections, and things like that. So it's something we kind of, everybody kind of size out the negativity on that, but that's what we have to do. So going out and definitely having pictures and things like that, and getting the new CSOs and new safety people defining things that are wrong will be, I think, a big asset going forward. I challenge you.
I'm going to the islands.
Follow me if you dare. Maybe not today though.
I'm just gonna make it up, right?
Yeah, you're not going anytime soon.
Yeah, I'm gonna come to your house today. So, I like to add something, because it's kind of like one of those story games where you could make it could be really fun. It could be really fun, and I think fun's important. Laughter in the classroom, I think it's important. Anyway, and then the other thing is, I like what you liked.
I like what you like.
Aww.
This is nice.
Yes, and that is the demonstration one. Yeah, and the questions at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I like that.
And I like the hat one too.
Thank you.
That's my second.
Good.
We mixed it up.
And I like all of you. I told you we couldn't do it. Good one, good one. That's a good one.
Oh, that's true. Oh, yeah, we have to say that.
We're not allowed to say that.
So, committing to a goal is how we learn. Duh. That's why there is a syllabus and a plan, or an activity outlay for lessons and all that kind of stuff. So the commitment that you're making, you don't have to do it publicly. The thing about doing it publicly is you're more likely to follow through. It is as well a hallmark of all the professions. Professionals make their practice public. They're able to name what they do, which is why I'm standing here. What is this about? This is about my commitment to my own growth. And when I say I'm going to work on this, I've established myself as a learner. Duh. That's where we came in today, was every good teacher knows that he or she is a learner. You just say, yeah, I'm going to try this, and you got excited about, and I know when I'm going to do it, I'm going to start here, and I'm going to do this next, and it's going to be fun, and I'm looking forward to it, and that's what you want your learners to be saying. So if that's what you're saying and doing, that's going to help. So that expression, making your practice public, is very important. I want to tell you a story over here, a sad story, sort of, about doing this in a Train the Safety Trainer class that I taught a year or so ago. It was a big class. It might be coincidental that it was entirely populated with men. Most of them were site superintendents responsible for safety. They seemed grudgingly to be so. And in this case, they wouldn't do any of these things. I did this envelope thing with them. Well, I wouldn't do any of these things. Oh, well, why not? Well, my people don't know anything. Well, I couldn't trust them to do what's wrong, or each one teach one, or Q&A, because they don't know anything. I'm the only one who knows stuff, so I have to maintain the entire lesson and discussion myself because they don't know anything. And I said, well, who are these people? Are they Red Seal tradespeople? Yeah. And where did you get them? Did you hire them? Yeah. From accidentally? No, we interviewed them. They were the best of the lot. Okay, so you hired qualified tradespeople out of a pool of folk, and you don't trust that they know anything at all. So do you follow them around and check every nail that they hammer and every joint that they link and every time they load the crane? Are you right there checking up? Well, no. So will you trust them to do the work? You must think that they know something. Well, no, they don't know anything. That was not my I'll say no more about them. But they were so nervous about letting go of control into the learners that they couldn't let the learners learn, which is tragic. So all of these strategies, and this is not a complete set, and I'm not suggesting that it is. The key thing is, have you got repertoire so that you can dance in hot coals with your learners? If you meet a block, well, can you get around it? Can you go over it, under it? Is there someone else? Is there another student who can relate to that person? That's what we're on about. 25 students and one teacher is 26 learners. That's 13 teaching learning pairs. You can do a whole lot with that many people on duty. And that's what this student engagement, student participation is about. Everybody working hard together, like you would on a crew. You know, one guy with the 2x4 here dragging the other end on the ground is not going to get a lot done, which is why you put somebody on the other end of the 2x4s. So the logic of how we are in the world needs not to be left behind when we're going into teaching. So you got a lot of repertoire already, you've got some commitment to try new stuff, and you've positioned yourselves as learners, so that's all good news. And when we move on to the next thing, I'll go to the back, I'll put a check mark beside number 2, which shows that we're pretty much halfway done, which is exciting if you're an end gainer, which is not a good thing, but it's what I am anyway. And we're going to shift over to the other side of the teaching, learning circumstance and use those same cards. We're going to look at feedback. How do you know that the students are learning? Because one of the ways that you know whether your teaching is on point, your pacing is right, you've got the right materials, whatever, is some capacity to lift up the head of the learner and look in and see, is there anything going on in there? So the whole function of feedback in the lesson, during the lesson, at the end of the lesson, in the conversation, is that constant checking. How are we doing? What's happening? Just as there is repertoire for teaching, that is putting things out in front of people, there's also repertoire for finding out, is this landing on fertile ground? Are any of these seeds likely to sprout? Or are we just passing time or waiting till the class is over? So there's a whole repertoire of feedback techniques that typically hide under a concept called assessment, which used to be we would teach the whole lesson or the whole of the term, and when it was all done and over there, then we'd have a test and we'd see what people know. Having the test at that point is pointless. Why? It's too late. The class is over. So if we found out that nobody knew squat, it's too bad. We're still just there to kiss them goodbye. It's done. So feedback needs to be part of the constant loop. I teach, I check, I teach, I check, I teach, I check, so that I know what to teach next. If people are getting it and moving on and looking bored, I let it go. If they're looking stunned, I'm thinking, well, you're looking pretty stunned, let's try something else, and I move further into my repertoire. So that constant conversation, assessing, feedback, teaching, increases the likelihood that the learning is really going to land and stick and be useful. So in the assessment course, in the Provincial Instructor's Diploma, this is the assessment handbook that we use, and they're all strategies for finding out what people know. What's wonderful about this book, Classroom Assessment Techniques, is that these authors have done all the work. They've figured it all out, all the different ways that you could do various things. So all you need to do is look up what you want to check out. Suppose I want to check out, let's say, responsibility for self. There appears to be 7 different strategies in here that you can use with students. And it tells you how long it takes to prepare it, how long it takes for students to respond, and how to analyze the data. So this is just a divine resource. It's a little bigger than you want to use necessarily on one day. And I'm going to send you back to those cards that you looked at and the little baseball, while watching baseball points, and pull out into a pile in consultation with your partner those things that also work as what we call diagnostic or assessment strategies. Which ones tell you what students know? You've already done that, you two, Tanya. Travis, in looking at the demo and those are, and the Q&A are samples of that. But which ones percolate to the surface is, if I did this in my class, I'd get clues about what my students knew, and then I'd know what to do. Because I come with a plan, but my plan is pointless, it depends what you are up to. So go through the list again with your partner and pull out into a single pile those things that reveal what students know. They would then qualify as feedback or assessment or diagnostic actions. Just take a couple of minutes to do that, and then we're gonna do something else with it.
Can I just ask a question before everybody, because I need to hand this in. Michelle, do you want fries, salad, Caesar salad?
Just soup.
But your clubhouse comes with,
Oh.
anybody who ordered the clubhouse, it either comes with soup, chowder, green salad, Caesar salad, fries, or yam fries. So.
Does it come with soup?
Scotty? And also what kind of bread you want too.
Scotty, decide for sourdough. Exactly.
Okay, Scotty wants sourdough.
I want it.
And Scotty, do you want fries or salad? Yes, but this, see this Caesar salad here, or this clubhouse salad, comes with this. Oh, I see. So you did it.
That'd be kind of like,
Oh.
it says chowder. Yeah.
Oh, if they're at point for some, I can't, it's,
Okay, and what kind of bread?
Sometimes they just,
it's proof they don't really know it.
Red bread.
Like white bread?
Yeah.
Sourdough?
Sourdough.
Yeah.
well, maybe, yes, yes.
Yes, which ones are gonna give you clues the students are, where they really know what they know? It absolutely does, just work with one pile.
And John?
But it absolutely
What kind of
does.
bread do you want?
There, Joe, you're right.
Sourdough. I am joining Scott, I'm coming over to Scotty's side.
Yes.
They were here on the table. So they're all assessment strategies, assessment.
Was there any other questions we need to answer on the clubhouse? I thought the clubhouse was a sandwich, it's not, it's a salad.
No, it's a sandwich.
It's a sandwich.
Should
It
be
comes with all
answers to
your
answers.
choice of those.
And I would say salad on it.
No, just seafood chowder and.
So technically,
Yes.
technically, yeah, circumvent the situation is a problem.
Feedback for.
Okay, I'll start on it.
I usually stop
Yeah, as long as they,
Because if you've taught them how to do it, then you're gonna say, okay, there's a problem, it's time to
Yeah.
make a solution.
as long as they understood the context, they should be able to sort of review, which is fun. In other words,
2 years ago. fell apart.
No.
Really putting it back.
anything that they understand, right?
I'm
Well,
feeling good.
Okay, add something.
Add something, okay. So what is the
After lecture
description?
demo, a learner is asked to talk about the important aspects of the task. Each student, every learner says, please add something.
Is that really true that they understood this?
Yeah, as it gets harder and harder, toward the end of the chain, because many things have been bespoke, whereas Scotty was saying, I hope she doesn't make jigsaw, because that's what I wanna say. So to add something, if you think about the Olympics, the difference between first place and third place in a race is minuscule. Whereas for the average run of the mill, the difference between first place and third place might be a couple of minutes, several. So
That one.
the closer you get to perfection, the finer the distinction between what was and what wasn't. And so toward the end of a long list of good ideas, there are fewer good ideas to have, and you have to work harder to get ones.
Yeah.
And so that student then at the end of, I call it the chain, at the end of the chain gets a standing ovation if they're able to add something. Because it is really, really hard to add something. It's a refinement and a refinement, but we want to, in any of these activities, get better and better. We want to make lighter and lighter pastry, for example. My children, I made a pie once, and they said this pie was really good. You can rinse out the crust and use it again. They like the filling. I never made another pie, I didn't want to be that
And then
good.
asking why.
But, you know, there are levels of refinement in any activity is the point. And so when you add something requires that level of refinement, and people say, oh, no, not add something, or other really competitive ones say, oh, yeah, let's do add something. But it does give you a sense that maybe just the grossest level of things was found, or increased nuance levels of refinement were found. Those are both clues for you.
It's really good that if it's a hands-on,
knowledge in order to
Yeah.
hands-on learning, do
dissect the scenario.
I don't. I would be surprised if I was able to.
I was thinking,
It's terrific.
what's wrong? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's really good. That's the one we used it a lot. This is one of the most popular students describe in writing to their teacher what they don't get. It was the muddiest point of this lesson. The thing that was the most confusing to me, because then you need to teach that again in a different way.
He had something. You don't have to go down. I think it.
That is a medium.
I was gonna check this one. Yes.
Do you think this one?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
did this.
This one for sure.
Yeah, I think so.
That one was
Just in case you feel your interest lagging, you can say, oh, well, we're halfway.
We're not really halfway because 4 is the whole half on its own,
Yeah.
but, you know, if you're delusional, you're gonna have. Money's point?
Yeah.
And it's really fast, 3 or 4 sentences gives you a clue about what was going to see.
That's interesting. When I did the ID program, they didn't have a book like that.
It is fabulous.
Is it?
Yes, it really is. I use it.
The person that put it on, who was the lecturer, I think she came out of Seattle or Washington University or something like that.
Okay.
And
Bring it down here,
she
Michelle.
knew her stuff. She was excellent.
Her name?
No idea, no clue.
We would like to order some of these.
She shared with us her philosophy to writing multiple choice question tests.
Yes.
Let me see.
And two guys from the Ministry of Highways were there, and they said, oh, yeah, that's all fine and dandy. You'd never pass the
She said it was
test.
using the influential.
She said, bring it in tomorrow.
$1,000 for textbook, unless
She
you
didn't
find
get the necessary 80%, but she got 73%.
Textbooks are more expensive. Yeah, you gotta use bookstore. Textbooks are more
Welding
expensive
and
than the books
nursing,
themselves.
because those typically are the kind of
Yes,
people that
yeah.
go through the IT program.
That's unhelpful.
But this was,
That's
she
unhelpful.
didn't have the knowledge, but she applied her,
Asking you to take tests.
yeah, to just that.
No, I might not read this.
And in fact, our final exam for the foundations course could use a bit of work. The very first question on it breaks 2 of the cardinal rules.
$49 on.
How much?
43?
One question.
Well, that's
What?
not bad.
The answer is C.
Yeah.
And
$40.
it's the longest answer.
It's cheaper than a handy guide.
It stands out for about this long and all the other ones are 3 days answers.
Yeah.
43 at $45.
Yes.
Costs us $50 to order.
Because you teach the
Unless you
basic,
get 100
Or how'd you guys get it?
intermediate,
We do.
intermediate,
Well, sometimes we do, but
classes. And
sometimes we
you
order
teach
directly
the
from them.
intermediate,
Right,
that's
it's
unsafe acts
cheaper
and
because we order
conditions.
hundreds at a time.
And
Yeah.
then
It
the
should
root
be-
causes why would the unsafe acts
should be $40.
and
Yeah, it's
conditions allowed to
30.
exist.
Mhm.
And then they give examples
37
of
or
root
30,
causes and
something
they're all
like that.
unsafe
We
acts
order
and
them
conditions
100 at a time.
at the end.
But then it's cheaper for
Every
us to
single
order
one
them
of
through
them are.
you if it's under 100. Because
That's a good
if we order under 100, they're $50.
I changed that a
So,
little bit.
do you order straight from Cardwell?
I changed that a little bit
Oh,
to
my.
suit myself. I throw an example, a personal example in there and guide them through it because they have a hell of a time getting the
This is
immediate
what
cost.
this workscape did at one time too.
Being able to recognize the immediate cost. That's what I found with
Yeah.
with most of the classes.
Yeah.
They don't get it.
I'm doing a dance up front.
We might only
Yeah.
need, we only might need one book for the office. as
I,
opposed to
I
everybody.
tell them a story
One book for
about when I
resource
cut
reading.
myself with the
How much?
chainsaw.
Yeah.
$40.
40?
Yeah, and
43
I tell them that I
It
have had a
does,
serious
yes.
accident
Amazon.
personally with a chainsaw.
There
I'm
we
day
go,
number
cheaper
1
on
and I'm
Amazon.
introducing myself,
And you
but
can
I'm
buy
not
it
gonna tell you how it happened.
Yeah.
We're gonna save that So it's on day 2 that I do that when we're going through investigations. And so the immediate cause is chainsaw coming in contact with my knee. But the intermediate causes are numerous, you know. And the root cause is young, foolhardy, and lack of training. Yeah.
Is that true?
Apparently,
Chaps,
more
we know what chaps were.
An apple?
Did you not? Yeah.
So, and
More
so
effective at
when
waking
they're
up.
doing the scenarios, they say, remember Scotty's example, go back to that, how did the guy get hurt, what was
I
it
never
that
thought it
actually
was
caused the
simple
injury?
teaching.
And that's your immediate cause.
So I say an apple a day, get you an egg. No, it just keeps your teacher awake.
That's the course I'm teaching.
So I want the whole group to attend. The book is going around Cross and, can't remember the name's name.
Who?
Angelo, Thomas Angelo
Yeah,
and Tricia
Angelo
Cross.
Is the textbook of, is one of the textbooks that we use in the assessment course of the provincial instructor diploma. But this book is like a dictionary, a resource of ways to do classroom assessment, hence the name. It's called the CAT book for short, Classroom Assessment Techniques. But it's founded on the idea that the more we learn back from the students about what they know, the more precise we can be in our teaching. And that assessment needs to happen all the time, in all kinds of different ways, so that we get little snippets of information. One of the biggest ways that teachers can assess and get feedback is by looking at students' physical position. Are they paying attention? Are they making eye contact? Are they working on their iPhone? Are they nodding off? Do they look uncomfortable? Those are all clues that need to be attended to. Now, if you're teaching in a military academy and you assume that everyone's going to sit like it's a rigid back chair and be ready to salute, then you're not looking for these clues. But if you're a teacher with a heart, you are looking for these clues and you need to take them into account. Often, adult learners, any kind of learners actually, are reluctant to tell you how they're feeling about things publicly, which is why I mentioned earlier that we start a private conversation. But there are lots of ways to do that. One technique that if everyone's facing this way, like in an amphitheater or a classroom, and you can't see anyone behind you or beside you, a technique that I ask is give me 5 about how things are going. You've seen the agenda for the day, we're halfway through the day. How's it going? If we're really on point and you feel like you're motoring along, give me 5. If you'd rather be on Pluto, you can let me know. If you only want to tell me one thing, that's fine, just not that one. So give me 5, and then you take a scan around the room and you'll see that significant number of people, about halfway, are saying, okay, this is what's working for me. 1 or 2 might be like this. If I get some of those, I make a point of going to that student directly and do a sit beside, or, by the way, the word assessment is from the Latin root word assedere, which means to sit beside. The original idea of assessing is to determine the worth of something by sitting beside and doing an analysis. And I think that that's a humane way to think about assessment as an exchange of information rather than I'm checking up on you, or I'm evaluating you, or I'm putting a label on your forehead. So, I digress. Anyway,
So it means to sit beside?
it does, to sit beside.
And where?
It's a Latin,
Latin.
assedere, A-S-S-I-D-E-R-E. And its original purpose in Western economic terms was to assess the value of something or the quality of something. So an assessment of your property. What is this worth? The worthiness. And it's to come into education as to determine the worthiness of the student, which is, I think, an evil and vile concept, because a human being is worth a human being, period. But we use it to adjudicate a person's level of understanding about, or performance actually. So, the sooner that we do the assessment with sincerity, the sooner we have an opportunity to change, improve, stay the course if things are working well. The most important assessment is the assessment of the student himself or herself. What do they know what they're doing? We gradually train that independence out of our learners, and then we try to fill it back in with something else. It's like we give them a blood transfusion, but we often have the wrong type of blood. You know, look, so what does it matter? I'm not going home with you. What does it matter what I think about you? It matters what you think about you. So any number of those techniques, ones that I use, I like give me 5 because I can joke about it. I like to do that partway through. I like exit slips, and I just save whatever paper I need. We're going to do an exit slip at the end of the day today. If you have an ongoing class, like Mary Jo, you have a class that extends over a day, you can do an exit slip at the end of one day. Tell me one thing that worked really well for you today. Or tell me about the timing of events, or make a comment about the room, any kind of information that you need.
And what do you call that?
Exit slips. It's a little piece of paper that you drop off on the way out. So I have the paper ready, just put it out there, write an exit slip. I typically do that in early, like the first week or so, mainly to demonstrate I'm open to your suggestions about things. After,
Sorry, I apologize. What you learned today, or what?
then people say that's not fair, and then I have an opportunity to say, and who brought you up to think that life was fair, and that ends that conversation.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So that leaves me in charge. But really, it is an opportunity to try and equalize the tension that might occur. Now, being early does not mean you get it done and you get it out of the way so that you can work on your iPhone or have sexual fantasies. You still have the job of participating with goodwill as a learner for the audience participation part of the work of the other, and you have the obligation for feedback. So you have many things going on. I will be an instructor of a lesson, I will be a participant in 5 other lessons, I will provide feedback to 5 colleagues, and I will self-evaluate my performance. So that's a lot of work after lunch when all the blood is in your stomach,
You need to go to
and your
bed.
brain's a bit, fuzzy. If you ever have an opportunity to do public speaking, don't take the gig right after lunch, because that's when everybody's going off, so we don't have that option. So I've delivered to you 5 copies of the peer feedback, or so, 5 or 6.
Here you are.
And 1 copy of the green self-assessment,
Yes, the 5 ones.
and 1 yellow copy of guidelines for giving feedback. It's actually goldenrod, and I'd like you to give your attention to that for a moment. In the participant manual, there's an elaboration of giving feedback. But this is a quick
Thank you.
interview.
That's very
An example
generous.
of how to do it and how not to do it. Be specific. Focus on things that the presenter can do. Don't say to me, you should be taller, because, what the heck. Emphasize strengths. That's what I tried to demonstrate in our work this morning. We always focus on what we can do as the base for what we're going to do next. I'm a big fan of giving positive feedback only. Use I messages, say something that you know rather than something disembodied. I'm going to come back to that. Be respectful and kind. There's no need to drag anyone through the mud on the low stakes of our time today to talk about teaching and learning. This is not a job interview. It's not a marriage proposal. It's not a deathbed testimonial. It's a moment in your life. It needs to have moment status rather than something else. Please don't use the word should. That's the verbal equivalent of the finger wagging. You should do this, you should do that. You don't know what I should do. If you want to help me, tell me something that I could do that would have made your learning more productive. I would have learned more if I had a little more time to interview my partner. And then I know, okay, I gotta do that time check thing a little differently. Not, well, you should have done this and you should have done that. The minute you start talking to me that way, what do? Saying, you're not the boss of me. I'm out of here. I don't have to go home with you. Piss off. I might not say that. I might do any number of things. I might become self-deprecating. I'm a loser. I failed in that attempt. This is a moment. This is not an indictment of your upbringing. This is a moment, so keep it in the moment. On the other side of that page, the goldenrod page, when you're ready to get feedback from others, keep in mind that what we're giving you is our time and our attention. So please receive it as a gift. When we say these things about your performance, it's because we paid attention and we care about what you did, and we believe that as good as you are, you want to get better, and we'd like to help with that, one teacher to another. So if we can keep the whole idea of feedback as a gift, it works out pretty well. So the approach is a 10-minute lesson under the control of our sophisticated videographer a little bit of breathing in between, potentially getting up and walking around a bit, then another 10-minute lesson, we're gonna repeat that 6 times. Then we're gonna all breathe out, open a bottle of scotch, no, probably not. But then we're gonna do some exploring of those lessons. Let's take a second look and see what we find out. We call that feedback, but mostly we're just looking to see what's gonna go in the best column, what are we already doing that we're adding to that, where might we go next, and it's a moment of opportunity, it's not critique. It could go somewhere else, it could be, as we say, close enough for government work, or as the carpenters say, what, we're not building a piano. And go with that. I want you to keep it in a reason, I think it was either John or Scotty that I'm not expecting you to sweat blood. I'm not expecting you to sweat at all, I'm expecting you to be curious and joyful and to trust that the people in this room are doing the same thing that you're doing, and they want you to do it well, so they're gonna help you. This is the smartest group of learners you'll ever have, because they all know what you're doing, because they're doing it too. I want you to keep that in mind. So this is allegedly the front, but we will, under your leadership as the instructor, do anything within reason. We're probably not gonna get naked, but we'll move around, we'll do other kinds of things that you ask us to do for purposes of your lesson. If you want the furniture rearranged, we'll help you with that. If you want our attention over here or at the back, we will do that. You just ask us and we will help, because that's our job. Right? And after that, we go home. So if this seems like, oh my goodness, how will I get through this? Keep in mind that we're on the way home. So, and the weather's good, so what could go wrong? So you drew a number from the envelope, very sophisticated organizing technique of mine, that says what order things will go in. And we are under your guidance. And Travis, I think you're first.
Yay!
Yay! So I'm gonna watch the clock, and I'm gonna hold up the envelope when you're within a minute of the 10 minutes. This. So at 9 minutes, I'll just kind of wave this in a reasonably subtle way, at which point you can wrap it up. You don't have to necessarily be finished, but you need to stop. And then in the feedback, we can talk about timing if that turned out to be a challenge. Okay. And are you good, Michelle, for us getting going?
Are you participating? Yes, I think she should participate.
Well, do you need to be there doing elaborate
just kidding.
technical
I'm
things?
just kidding.
You're gonna be moving
Oh, I'm
the
just
camera
gonna
around and in and out.
Zoom in,
and
zoom out.
Okay.
So as long as you stay like central.
Between the two corners.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay.
That might be hard for me. I'll tell
What
you
I
that.
do need though is I do need everybody to move down this way. And